So yesterday, I talked a little bit about the real purpose of college or the purpose of college. And I talked about this idea from this book, Peter Craif's book, The Best Things in Life. In the very first dialogue, these are like kind of Socratic dialogues following Plato's model. And there's a Socrates character, and then in the first dialogue, there's a guy named Peter Pragma. And Peter Pragma, he is talking to the Socrates character, and the Socrates character basically gets him to see that he is going to college to get a degree, to get a good job, so that he can make enough money to send his kids to a good college, so that they can get a degree, so that they can get a job, so that they can make enough money to send their kids to college. And there's this kind of rat race, this kind of wheel, mouse wheel that everybody's on, and they're just spinning and spinning, spinning. And nobody realizes that they're on it, and nobody realizes that they might not need to be on it. There might be another way, or there might be maybe the wheel itself is okay to get on, but going through the steps that make up the wheel are okay to get on, but there's a better reason for doing those things than just perpetuating the wheel. And that is what I want to talk about today as the real benefit of college. What is the real reason to go to college? The right reason to go to college is not to participate in that rat race or to jump on that wheel and just perpetuate the wheel indefinitely. There's a real reason, a real benefit that college offers us. And so I want to talk about that briefly, and then hand it over to Grove City. So here's the thing: historically, from the ancient world through the medieval world until, I don't know, a couple hundred years ago, basically there was this idea of something called leisure or leisure, depending on how your preferred pronunciation. And leisure was this idea of taking time to contemplate good ideas and perceive and apprehend beautiful things, to participate in truth, goodness, and beauty, with your rest, in your time of rest. And so, well, excepting those people who were independently wealthy and didn't need to work, anybody else who participated in leisure that worked, they worked so that they could have times of leisure, so that they could take time to rest and contemplate true things, good things, and beautiful things. But somewhere in the last couple of centuries or less, that shifted on us. And work has become the thing that we do. Work has become who we are. And so we rest. We no longer work so that we can rest or so that we can have leisure. We rest so that we have the energy to work. And so the weekend is a time for me to rest up so that I can go work hard for 5 days, or the evenings are a time for me to rest so that I can work hard the next day. And that's true whether you're talking about work like in a factory or at your job, or work in school. We rest so that we can work rather than working so that we can rest. And we've confused rest now with leisure. Rest is something very different than leisure. It's much less focused, and there's less intention behind it. So I can think of myself as resting when I stop for a few minutes from whatever I'm doing and start playing a video game on my phone, and I can think of that as resting. Or if I just crash on my couch and binge watch an entire season of some TV show, I can think of that as resting. But leisure is this it's a different kind of rest. It's a kind of attention to contemplate true, good, and beautiful things, and in some way even participate in worshiping God with or through or by those things. So there's even like a festal or like a holiday fest kind of thing, a worship fest that comes from it. But then the purpose of leisure itself, or leisure itself, has a purpose beyond just contemplating. Its purpose is to attain wisdom and virtue. And so wisdom and virtue are these things that we're ultimately trying to get at. Wisdom would be, if I can just simplify it for the sake of our conversation, wisdom is the desire, the attempt to contemplate things so you can understand them according to their nature. So I can understand God, so I can understand truth, so I can understand beauty, so I can understand anything according to its nature, insofar as its nature can be known. And then virtue is the way of learning to regulate my behavior, or order my behavior so that I'm behaving according to the nature of the thing. So that I'm treating the thing the way it ought to be treated. And I'm treating myself the way I ought to be treated. So I have a nature, you have a nature, and that nature demands something of me. It demands that I treat myself a certain way and that I interact with other things that have a nature properly. And so wisdom and virtue is again, just, I mean, basically, to simplify it, understanding the nature of things, myself included, and then acting according to those natures. So leisure is a means by which we can attain wisdom and virtue. Uh, and ultimately, that is that is the real benefit of college. The real benefit of college is that, sure, I might be studying at a college to get us to learn a skill or to get a credential, to get a job, to go on to higher levels of education, master's degree, PhDs. I may be going to a college to meet my wife or my husband. Um, there may be all these other things that I'm doing, but ultimately, what I want to be getting from my education at college, any education I participate in, honestly, but in this case, since we're talking about colleges, let's talk about college. Um, Ultimately, the thing that I want to get from the college that I attend is the training in leisure, how to participate in leisure, how to gain wisdom, how to become virtuous. And when I step into that college world, when I step into this world, when I step, out from my mother's womb and into this world, and all through my entire life up until old age, there's always there are three things competing inside of me, three parts of the soul, as it were, that are competing within me. There's what can be called the belly, and this is like my desire for physical things, food and drink and comfort, and those are all things that I can buy with money. So oftentimes the belly gets referred to the desire for wealth gets referred to as a desire of the belly, because wealth buys me comfort. Um, and so there's this sense in which human beings always desire money to some extent because they want to be comfortable. And then there's this second part inside of me that we can call the chest. C.S. Lewis calls it the chest in Abolition of Man. And the chest is the desire for honor, which often manifests itself as a desire for power or authority, especially when it's controlling the person. And this desire for power or for control is a desire to manipulate or control in the negative sense. It's let me pause for a second. The desires of the belly and the desires of the chest are not necessarily bad. They're part of who we are and they're part of how we live. Like the desire to eat and drink keeps me alive. It's a desire to only eat and drink that's problematic, right? The desire for honor is a good thing. It's good when God the Father tells God the Son, "This is my beloved Son in whom I am well pleased." That's a good thing, that kind of honor. We want and should want to hear God say that to us. Um, but the desire that goes beyond that, to where I want to try to control and manipulate either other people or nature itself, to make nature violate its own to make the physical world violate its own nature so that I can be comfortable. That's a bad use of power and authority, of manipulation and control. And then the third thing is the mind, and the mind desires knowledge. The mind desires knowledge and virtue, but the mind, rightly trained, the mind that participates in leisure, learns to desire those things for those reasons. The mind that has not been trained, that's in this constant struggle and battle between the belly, the chest, and the mind, when that starts happening, the mind's desire for knowledge becomes not a desire for wisdom and virtue, but a desire of knowledge so that it can get the desires of the belly, so that it can come up with ways to justify or even execute the plans for getting money or other comforts or power and the ability to control and manipulate. So what we need then is, in this constant battle that we all have, we need to learn how to harmonize those relationships so that the mind is doing the right things, the chest is doing the right things, and the belly is doing the right things at the right times and in the right ways. And so when we go into college, we're entering into college with that struggle going on inside of us. And so there are gonna be these temptations to, um, uh, don't study, just stay up all night playing video games, or don't study, go to this party and hang out with my friends, um, or cheat on this test so that I can pass the test, but then I can do this other thing, or use ChatGPT to write my essay, and then not have to deal with the actual work that goes into acquiring wisdom and virtue, but try to find these manipulative or greedy kind of based uh, shortcuts so that I can do all this other stuff. There's going to be that struggle entering into college. And what I have to do is I have to enter into this college experience knowing that that's going to happen, and being willing to go through that struggle and that fight, and to say, no, I'm not going to let my belly win. I'm going to put my game down, or say no to this party or whatever, and I'm going to do the hard work of studying, or reading this text and preparing for class, so that I can learn how to participate in leisure properly, so that I can have wisdom, so that I can have virtue. And that's a struggle, right? Like, wisdom and virtue is not something that when you turn 30 years old, boop, you automatically have it. Every adult that has attained to wisdom and virtue, however many of those there are, every single one of them that has attained to it because they fought this fight, because they went through this struggle. It's not on your birthday it happens, unfortunately. Kind of wish that it was, but it's not. And so we have to go through this struggle. So the real benefit of college for any one of you is to go into that college knowing that this is the role you get to play, but that the professors and the curriculum and the teachers and the school, if it's a good school, is there helping you to attain to wisdom and virtue if you do your part and participate in the struggle and fight against these desires and these passions. So that really ultimately is the real benefit of college, is that if you participate in the struggle and the college is doing its part and helping you to teach you how to participate in leisure, how to pursue wisdom, how to pursue virtue, then the real benefit of college is that when you come out of it, you're on the path. You're closer to wisdom and virtue than you ever would have been otherwise. And then going into wisdom and virtue, sure, then you go get the job that the school also trained you for. You marry the person that the school also introduced you to, whatever, all those other things that happen. Those things get to happen, but now you get to live that life as somebody who's wiser and more virtuous, knows how to participate in leisure, and can work for leisure rather than rest for work. And you're out of the rat race, you're out of the spinning wheel, and you're starting to participate in things for the right reasons and in the right ways. So that's the real benefit of college. How do we attain that? How do we do that? Apart from just some of the examples I gave, is what we're going to talk about tomorrow. And tomorrow's talk is on what is the good college student, and the good college student will look at that from the college student's perspective, how you can go about participating in that struggle. The day after that, the good college professor, how the good college professor leads you and guides you through that struggle. And then finally, on Friday, we'll talk about the necessity of college, whether there is one and what it would be for each of you. So those are the real benefits of college. Learning how to pursue wisdom and virtue for the sake of wisdom and virtue. On that note, I will stop here, and I will hand the camera and the microphone over to Lee Wishing from Grove City College. Lee.
Hello. Hello.
And Lee, if you want me to spotlight Andrew as well, I can do that.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, it'd be great.
Should I do that now?
Sure.
There we go. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks, folks.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Lee Wishing, and I'm Vice President for Student Recruitment at Grove City College. I was a student here many years ago, and have worked here now for 30 years, and was along the way also served for 16 years on our classical Christian um, school board here in Grove City. Grove City Christian Academy has an arm's length association with Grove City College. Many great professors from Grove City have served on that board for years. So Grove City College is really dialed in well to what you're trying to do at the CiRCE Institute, which, by the way, at Grove City, we are big fans of the CiRCE Institute. And Dr. Bianco, you would fit in really well as a professor here. Andrew, his talk there reminded me of something that would be spoken in one of our annual faculty retreat in the summer. We'll maybe have
Yeah.
to invite him to come speak sometime. But you fit right in here, Dr. Bianco, at Grove City. I'll just add that the first program that you guys did like this in November of 2020 was a pleasure to participate in it, and I'll never forget Dr. Andrew Kern, saying similar things to what you said, Dr. Bianco, and he was talking about the 3 reasons students often go off to college. 1, to gain personal power or a job, 2, for patriotic reasons, to make America a better place, all good things, or for community power, so personal power, community power, or 3rd, and most important, the transcendent reasons that you just spoke about, virtue and wisdom. And he also said that if you pursue virtue and wisdom, you get the other things thrown in as a bonus. You're going to be prepared well for your vocation, and you're going to be prepared well to have a positive influence on your community. So commend all of you involved with CiRCE Institute for seeking education for transcendent reasons, and Grove City is a transcendent place. So let's get into Grove City a little bit. So there's the Grove City College was founded in 1876. We're about an hour north of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So we're on the western side of Pennsylvania, about 25 miles from the border of Ohio. We've got about 2,200 students that live on campus. So putting this in context, this sounds like an oxymoron, but Grove City is kind of a large, small Christian college. So it's a large, small Christian college. Most Christian colleges are maybe like 1,000 to 1,500. We're 2,200, so we're on the larger size. And again, to think about, put Grove City in context, we're a little bit different in that we have quite the breadth of majors here, ranging from English to electrical engineering, from communication to computer science. So there's a deep and broad array of majors here, and that prepare students to go off not only into the humanities and the liberal arts and business and education fields, but also into the sciences. And Grove City, again, to put you kind of into context, if you were to study computer science at Grove City is kind of like the Carnegie Mellon University of Christian colleges. We're distinctly Christian. We're distinctly Christ-centered, and that is the core of Grove City. Christ-centered education, where we would say that Christian scholarship is a rigorous pursuit of the truth, and I'll address that in just a minute. But there's our campus. It's spectacular. It was laid out by the Olmsted brothers. It looks like an Ivy League campus. The Olmsted brothers laid out in the late 19th century and early 20th century Yale, Harvard Business School, Stanford, Notre Dame, Johns Hopkins, Wash U, and I think St. Louis. So it looks like an Ivy League campus, and indeed Grove City really was kind of partnered with Princeton early on in its foundation. We were kind of a Western outpost in a way, kind of under the wing of Princeton. We kind of kept that old Princeton model, and as you know, Princeton's kind of vacated that Christian foundational very important Christian foundation element of education. And we say our mission today is, as you can see on the screen, to equip students to pursue their unique callings. We believe every student is made in the image of God, with certain passions, interests, talents that make up lead them to a calling. So we want to equip students to pursue their unique callings through a Christ-centered, academically excellent. Grove City is challenging. It's not an easy place. It's rigorous. And an affordable living and learning experience. So our mission is to equip you to pursue your unique calling through a Christ-centered, academically excellent, and affordable learning and living experience. We also say, let's see if this is going to work here. There we go. Grove City is a place where you can pursue truth freely, uh, grow in community, and learn to serve others confidently. Again, we say that Christian scholarship is a rigorous pursuit of the truth, where Christ as creator is a source of all knowledge and truth, and in whom all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge are found. That you're going to grow in a community where you're going to have peers here. You're going to be surrounded by peers who share your values and your faith. And this is a place where iron sharpens iron, and where you lift one another up. And then you learn to serve
Mhm.
here others confidently. And I would
Oh,
just
I was
say,
just looking at.
oh, I'm sorry. Oh, okay. I would say that one of the great benefits of studying in a place like Grove City, like 180 acres, hour north of a city. You can get to the city if you want, but it's in a relatively uh, it's not rural like we're in the middle of cornfields, or but it's a really beautiful setting. I guess it'd be rural, but not extremely rural. It's a beautiful, beautiful setting in which you can retreat for 4 years, study hard. But when you pursue truth, it leads to what our professors would say, a doxological impulse. In other words, when you're studying the sciences, or you're studying history or English, and you encounter some great truth, it's very joyful. So this process of learning, leisurely learning, but working hard as you're learning, it almost, that sounds like a conflict, leisurely learning, but working hard at it. It produces joy. It's a really joyful thing, and consequently, Grove City is a really joyful place to study. Sorry, my son is calling and it's ringing in my ears here. But anyway, so in studying in the environment that Dr. Bianco is talking about, and in the way he's talking about it, it produces joy. And I've heard a number of people say over the years, wow, Grove City is a really joyful place, one of the most joyful places I've ever been. And I think it's because of that shared Christian faith, and that shared rigorous pursuit of the truth, that produces these doxological impulses. In other words, this desire to praise God. And it's a joyful thing as you learn at Grove City. One of the things that unites Grove City, besides a faith at Grove City, is this humanities core. And all students take a set of courses that they share together, the humanities core. I'm going to have Dr. Mitchell talk about the course that he teaches here. I think it's this one, Western Civ, Historical and Intellectual Foundations. But there's a common a core of courses that, whether you're an electrical engineer or an English major, you take all of these together. And this is tremendously foundational. And it's something that students who study from a classical Christian perspective love. And they're not like me. I'm a graduate of public education in high school. And when I came to Grove City, I was just hanging on for dear life to learn these kinds of things, because it was the first time I was ever exposed to it. But you folks have a real benefit in that it won't be the first time you've been through it. You've seen it, and Grove City will take you deeper and higher and help launch you out into the world with this wonderful foundation for all of your studies. For those of you interested in the classical world, we have a classical studies minor. And if you're interested in going out and teaching someday in a classical Christian environment, whether it be online or in a day school, place like CiRCE, we've got a classical Christian education minor. And I can tell you that the demand is over the top, and Dr. Mitchell helps with that program, and we can't possibly fill all the demand for that. So there's a huge demand in that area if you want to pursue that. Some of the most popular majors at Grove City: engineering, biological and biomed sciences, business management and marketing, education, I just spoke to that, English, political science, exercise science, computer science. Class size, average class size is about 21 students. Our student faculty ratio is about 14 to 1, 13, 14 to 1. So you're gonna have some classes that might have 8 and some classes that might have 38, but you're going to average out over the years around 21 in a class. So small classes, and we're going to have really close relationships with your faculty. That picture you're seeing there with Dr. Franklin, a philosophy professor, is pretty common. Our faculty are very much involved in the lives of their students. Extracurricular programs, really a lot of opportunity in the world of the fine arts, in the performing arts, music. Athletics is big at Grove City. 23 varsity sports here, Division III sports. Most of our teams are competing for conference championships every year. This year, our football team ended up being ranked number 10 in the nation in Division III. How many faculty have terminal degrees? Terminal degrees, kind of like a fancy term for a doctorate, or they've gone as far as they can go in their field. About 95% of our 150 full-time faculty have terminal degrees, and they've come from places like Oxford, Cambridge, Princeton, Yale, Michigan, Virginia, Vanderbilt, and so forth, Carnegie Mellon. And they want to come teach here. When we have faculty openings, we have tremendous demand among faculty who are interested in teaching Grove City, I think because of the culture and the environment we have, and importantly, the quality of the students that we attract at Grove City. We attract a lot of students like you. You guys are excellent students, and our faculty love to engage with students like you. On the back end, employers love Grove City College as well. This is a hotbed of corporate recruiting. We'll have 200 plus 200 plus companies, who's who of American business, and nonprofits and grad schools recruiting here. About 96% of our students are employed or in graduate school, their choice, within 6 months of graduation. And we know that to be true because we know where 99% of our students are. Recently, we've been ranked as high as number 4 for best career services office in the country by Princeton Review, and we've been ranked number 8 for internships. So basically, this type of education that Dr. Bianco is talking about, where it's transformational, it's transcendent, it's joyful, it produces virtue, as Dr. Kern said. This idea of going to get a job is not sustainable. Well, if you're not pursuing the transcendent, if you're not pursuing wisdom and virtue, and corporations recognize that in Grove City College students. They want virtuous, knowledgeable, hardworking employees in the work world, and so there's a high demand for Grove City College students, and indeed we see that I won't get into earning statistics, but they're impressive. But our alumni do really well in their chosen fields of study, whether they go off and serve as pastors or missionaries or computer programs, or like my friend Ed Breen, who's the chairman and CEO of DuPont. and another friend of mine who was the chief financial officer, good friend of mine when I was in school, chief financial officer at Marathon Oil. So regardless of your profession, Grove City College students, this transcendent form of education that Dr. Bianco is talking about is here at Grove City, and it's a marvelous thing. So I'd like to turn this over to Dr. Mitchell to have you to expose to you one of the core humanities classes that I had mentioned earlier. Dr. Mitchell is a beloved history professor here who has a heart for what you're doing and for classical Christian education.
Thank you very much, Lee. And good afternoon, everybody. I've been teaching at Grove City for, I think, 15 years now. I like to teach at Grove City. I like to talk about Grove City as well. And so I know you guys are probably all coming from a variety of different backgrounds. I'd like to share a few remarks, perhaps now, but then also be very willing to open up the floor to any kind of questions that you would have about the nature of Grove City campus. I'd like to echo a little bit of what Mr. Wishing was just talking about, because it may have sounded to you like, well, some of the things that he's talking about could describe a number of different schools right out of the country. So what really is distinctive about Grove City? And I would like to kind of just reiterate 2 or 3 points that he did bring up. And one, I think, is the atmosphere of serenity that actually does come from being in a small town, a small college town. Right? Grove City itself is about 7,000 people in the surrounding areas as well. And there is something to be said, I think, given the hustle and bustle of our current American life, given the hustle and bustle of technology, given the demands of the present, the almost unceasing demands for our time and for our attention, being able to physically dwell in a place where there's fewer distractions, not an absence of distractions, right? But just slightly fewer distractions can help focus our minds, can help focus ourselves, can help us filter out a lot of the noise that tends to come through the airwaves, the internet, in our lives that tells us it's important when maybe it's not. Maybe it's not really that important or that essential. So I would emphasize a serene atmosphere to kind of help people focus on the right things in the right ways is one of the true marks that distinguishes Grove City from other campuses. And I'd say, secondly, the last point that Mr. Wishing brought up is the kind of commitment to the faculty. There's lots of really great Christian colleges and universities out there. There's lots of great non-Christian colleges and universities out there that may have pockets of faculty, that may have departments, that may have certain aspects of a college campus that really are interested in helping you attain wisdom and live a life of virtue. Grove City, I think you're getting a complete package. I think I can say that confidently, having been here for 15 years. You'll see this throughout student life and learning. You'll see it in the resident assistants helping you in your dorms. You'll see it in athletics. You'll see it in drama. You'll see it in the sciences. You'll see it in the humanities. You'll see it in our chapel program. You'll see it in the administration. You'll see it in the housing and the cleaning staff. It is an environment that is saturated with people who desire your good. And who are working together and working with each other to help build each other up in lives of wisdom and virtue, and also desiring that for you as well. So I would say the comprehensive nature of Grove City's commitment to these principles is another distinguishing factor. And then the third element, which I'll just speak about briefly, although I know it's probably gripping to all of you, is this kind of 5-core sequence that we know as the humanities core. I want to reiterate that it is incumbent upon all students, regardless of their major. They have to take a series of classes dealing with theology, dealing with history, dealing with literature, dealing with art, and dealing with philosophy and ethics that really tries to get at this fundamental question: what does it mean to be human? And I mean, if you've been paying attention to anything that's been going on for the last 8 years, you know that what does it mean to be human? Whether it's talking about what does it mean to be a man, what does it mean to be a woman, what is a woman, what is marriage, right? What's life all about? Is there any point to life? What's the purpose of government? All these questions are wrapped up in this one fairly short but phenomenally important question of what does it mean to be human? And because that question is so deceptively simple, but also so fundamentally important for affecting who you guys are and the life you guys are going to be making and the families you guys are going to be involved with and the communities that you guys are going to be involved with and the churches, right? Your participation in the body of Christ, because the answers to that are so great and weighty and important, the college feels it essential that all students come through, not just with a quick one semester class, but with a very intentional, ingrained program that's going to take you, I mean, probably 75% of your semester. You're going to take a course in it in your freshman year, you're going to take courses in it sophomore year, you're going to take courses in it junior year, and maybe even a course in your senior year. So the process is fairly simple. We start off with theology. Like, what does it mean to be human? Fundamentally, it means to be a created being made in the image of God. What does that mean? Like, who's this God that created us in his image? Right? Of paramount importance, because without him, we wouldn't be made, right? John tells us this. Without Christ, nothing was made that was made. So we spend 2 semesters, right, in involving our students in the richness of scripture and church tradition. What is it that the Bible tells us about the nature of God? And what has the church taught us? And the fathers taught us about the nature of God, the nature of man, the nature of the world in which we currently inhabit. How permanent is it, right? What are the permanent qualities about it? What are the impermanent qualities about it? And the class I teach takes this question and says, well, what is man? Man is a creature created in the image of God who is not meant to dwell alone, right? We start with the 2nd chapter of Genesis. It's not good for man to be alone, so I'm going to have a helper. And wouldn't you know, after that helper comes along, there's a lot more humans on the earth after this, right? God just provides one, but then Adam and Eve, they, you know, miracles happen, right? As it were, right? So what happens when men then dwell with other men? What are the beautiful things that happen when men and women live together in community? And because of Genesis 3, what are the tragic things that happen when men and women dwell together in community? And notice I didn't use the word have to, right? What are the things that happen? Not have to happen, right? That things don't have to be perfect. Things don't have to be terrible and miserable, right? So there's an element of choice that men and women have been given, being made in the image of God, perhaps. So what have they done to organize life, to make sense of the world in which they see around them? How have they lived with each other? How have they improved the lives of each others? How have they degraded and turned life into a miserable way? So we can see what are the admirable traits of cultures and civilizations that make up this idea of the West and Western civilization, the Greeks, the Romans, the Christians, the Germanic tribes that put an end to the Roman Empire and then open up a whole new chapter of human history. Right? What are these civilizations and the story that they bring to us all the way down to the current day? What do they tell us? What insights do they have for us on what it means to be human? Right? And again, it's important that we don't forget this. Right. So again, right, over the last 4 or 5 years, at least in the United States, you're seeing very deliberate attempts to try to erase, ignore, tear down, destroy elements of the human past that we just don't like for a variety of reasons. Right. When Mr. Wishing was bringing up this pursue truth freely, part of the freedom is going to mean involving yourself with the messiness of human affairs, the beauty of human life, but also the ugly features as well. You can't just whitewash the ugly aspects of human history to just presume that if I don't speak it, it never happens, right? And we'll talk about the reasons why that might be, right? So we have a semester course that looks at the human story from the ancient times to the present day, and then after you've been grounded for 2 semesters in scripture and a semester in the human story, then so just the light and beautiful stuff begins, right? So as Dr. Bianco, the first question he asks is about literature, right? As C.S. Lewis's Chronicles of Narnia, J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. Well, what does literature have to tell us about what it means to be human? And Tolkien talks about man being a sub-creator and all the potential that means for creating art and the beauty and the glory and the life that comes from art and comes from literature. All right, so you get 2 semesters dealing with art and literature, and then at the capstone course, you get this philosophy and ethics. Before we send you out into the world, the bigger world, the world, before we give you the opportunity to step into more noise, right? More distractions, the joys of more relationships, the frustrations of more relationships. You're going to be presented with a number of situations. You have no idea what's coming. So how can you step in confidence towards the the virtuous path, or on the virtuous path? How can you make the right decisions in scenarios that you can't even begin to imagine, right? So this is what philosophy and ethics is talking about. We're taking fundamental principles that we've learned in theology freshman year, we've learned through history, we see examples in literature and art. So does it give us certain kinds of principles that when Caesar asks us for something in 2032 and you're out of Grove City, how do you make the wise decision? How do you make the right decision and have some sort of confidence that it is the right decision, and you're not just simply being led on by some huckster. You're not just simply being led on by an influencer on social media. You're not just simply being led on by, well, America's always done it that way, so maybe that's the right decision. So this capstone course is of paramount importance in drawing all these strands together in an intensely practical manner that's going to try to provide you guys with the best possible way of walking forward in God's light, surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses from the past, surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses contemporary as your fellow Grove City students, and encouraging you to look for that fellow cloud of witnesses in your local church, in your local communities, and hopefully a future family as you step out. So I find the Huma Core to be a fascinating experience to teach. And having taught it for 15 years, I find it one of the most fascinating experiences for Grove City students, regardless of their major. So that's just kind of a little blip.
Great, Andrew. I guess and Dr. Bianco, I guess we'll be ready for questions if anybody has any. Is there anything you wanted to add, Dr. Mitchell?
No, I mean, I'm more interested in hearing what prospective students or even parents of prospective students might have to think.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys can feel free to either type your comments or your questions in the chat box there, like Milo just did, or Abigail, or unmute if you want, if it's easier.
Sure. As far as modern languages goes, it's a somewhat restricted offering now to, I believe, Spanish and French. Although we will have, so we also have Latin and Biblical Greek, if I'm not mistaken, as offerings right now. There's a language placement test for students, so you'll be given a test as you go in, depending on your placement. You may test out of your language requirement entirely, or you might need a semester or a semester or two for that. Lee, you might know a little bit better if we have a youth ministry.
Yes, within we have probably the leading scholar of youth ministry in the country here, Dr. Duffy Robbins, quite a dynamic fellow, and he's in our Christian Ministries program. Yeah, so there's a lot there. And let's see, youth ministry. What do chapel services look like? Okay, great question. So we have Worship Wednesday, Formation Friday, and then we also have the Truth for Life series on Wednesday evenings. So Wednesdays are kind of a typical, almost like a church service. Students will, we have a student-led worship, quite talented worship bands, I guess you would say, music ministry beforehand, and we'll sing hymns as well as contemporary songs, and have a kind of a traditional sermon and on Wednesdays, and the campus shuts down for that. And then on Friday, same thing, but in terms of timing, but it's called Formation Friday. And Dr. Mitchell, have you led any of those studies on Fridays? You want to talk about yours if you've done it?
Yeah, so I actually was able to team up, and it was a really novel opportunity that was actually encouraged by our current president, Paul McNulty, right? So he had a vision for kind of reforming the chapel program to make it more invigorating and to make it something that students would want to come to, as opposed to just a dumb, boring check mark that I got to kind of fulfill in order to register for classes in the coming year. And there's a lot of leeway that's offered to faculty, such that I was even able to pair up with a resident director. So we had a resident director of one of the guys' norms named Bennett Potter, who was a theology student. He was interested in exploring the implications of a German theologian who had emigrated to America, lived in Vermont, taught at Dartmouth College, named Eugene Rosenstock Hoyce. And so he and I gave two of these Friday five-week series looking at the theology of a book of his called Fruit of Lips. We also tag teamed to do one on the miracles of Jesus. I have also tagged team to do one with the provost's wife, Amy Frank, on bread in scripture, looking at it in its actual consumption, looking what the Bible tells us about bread in its sort of natural state and in an allegorical state. And this spring, I'm going to be offering one by myself because unfortunately Bennett has left, but it's entitled Render Unto Caesar. So we're going to be looking at 5 moments in church history where different Caesars have demanded of Christians different things, and looking at the way in which Christians have responded, and looking at what happens to Christians and to Caesar when they choose to respond to Caesar in that particular way. So lamentably, I don't know. I mean, my brothers have wanted me to kind of post this up kind of podcast style. So I'm actually tempted to explore that option, but right now it's only at Grove City. So I might leave it out there for that. So.
And these are a lot of fun, right? I mean, so you're doing this, and there's a dozen of these things going on Friday. They're all over the place, right?
Yeah. And they'll be staggered. So every semester is about 14 or 15 weeks. So you usually have 2 sets of 5 going through the semester, right? And again, students can attend them. And I mean, if I had to speak to the kind of Christian environment on campus, the last time Bennett and I ran this one on Eugene Rosenstock Hoyce, we had 150 students show up.
Oh my!
Every week.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's definitely a lot of energy. There's definitely a lot of hunger for these kinds of programs. So I'm really happy to help with this.
Great. And then Wednesday evening, it's not every Wednesday evening, but I think it's called Faith for Life or Truth for Life series. And you'll take, there'll be a off-campus speaker who'll come in and talk about some challenging contemporary subject usually, and kind of look at it from a biblical perspective, and that'll be on Wednesday evening. So I hope we covered chapel well there. Is this a Catholic college? No. Grove City is kind of, Grove City, when it was founded, as I said earlier, it was kind of founded on the old Princeton model. And we have actually a professor here who's an expert on that model, Dr. Paul Kemeny. He leads the whole humanities side of the college. And he wrote a book called Princeton in the Nation's Service. And I was reading this book and I said, gosh, Paul, the history of Princeton from the period that you cover, 1866 to about 1926, that, and especially that late 19th century part, 66 to about 86, sounds like so much like Grove City College's founding. And he said, well, yeah, Grove City and Princeton were pretty close to one another. There was a lot of cross-pollination back then between Grove City and Princeton. And so Princeton and Grove City were both at their core like Reformed Presbyterian. And so our even today, our religion department is largely comprised of Presbyterians, but for the rest of the college, it's like a mere Christianity college. Would you say that's correct, Andrew?
Yeah,
it's like Protestant, evangelical. We have some Catholics that teach here, but what would you say, Andrew?
Yeah, again, if mere Christianity is going to encourage people to think that denominations don't matter, I would say we're not that kind of mere Christian. I think it's merely Christian in the sense that we celebrate the Catholic traditions, Eastern Orthodox traditions, and a variety of, I think, Orthodox expressions of Protestantism.
Right.
So that's not to say that we believe that there aren't legitimate differences of expression and beliefs, but that we believe that as far as an academic function goes, right? And so, right, we're not a church, right? We're here to be an ally with the church as we pursue truth in an academic context. And in that light, we see no reason to bar Eastern Orthodox professors or Roman Catholic professors or any kind of Protestant professor, right? So we celebrate their particularities, we recognize their particularities, We do not see any of those as a bar to the academic pursuit of truth or the nurturing of students in the way of wisdom and virtue. So we're not a relativist. In other words, what I'm trying to say is, or we're not a relativist to say your denomination doesn't matter.
Right. But
Yeah.
largely Protestant.
Or the Protestant, yes.
Yeah. But it's a wonderful place where we say that we pursue truth freely and humbly and together. So when you're pursuing truth, you have, not everybody agrees all the time. And so you can have people coming from different perspectives, all seeking God's truth. And, sparks can fly a little bit every once in a while, but you want to do it joyfully and humbly. And it's a wonderful place to do that. But this is not a Catholic college. But we do have a number of Catholic students who are comfortable here because we do seek the truth, and we do it humbly, and we do it winsomely. But in areas where we differ, and but we try to love one another in our differences. Do you have extracurricular clubs like speech and debate? Yeah, we have one of the best speech and debate teams in the country. Yes, we've won a number of national championships. We usually win one or two every year, and so they're traveling around the country. Have you gone on any of those trips, Dr. Mitchell, with the speech and debate team?
I've been invited, but I'm so busy here. I haven't been able to tear myself away for it. But
Yeah.
I know 3 faculty members, Dr. Edwards, Dr. Harvey, Dr. Coulter, that regularly advise the speech and debate team, and they're all phenomenal gentlemen. They're really good at what they do. Really
a couple
good.
Of years ago, we got invited to this exclusive tournament with, sadly, the King's College is out of business out of New York City for now. I don't think that they're in business right now, but the King's College, Harvard and Princeton, and we ended up in the final against Harvard and won that. But it's a really good speech and debate team, and most of our students, a lot of them come out of NCFCA and STOAS, for those of you familiar with those organizations. Let's see what else we have here.
These are all great questions, by the way. I mean,
they are
phenomenally good questions.
What do you believe is the core value of this college? Okay, so we have 5 core values: faithfulness, but that would be the core value: faithfulness, excellence, community. Note that community is right in the middle, number 3. Faithfulness, excellence, community, stewardship. We try to be really faithful with our funds. You may know that Grove City College does not accept any federal funding. And so we have to really watch our funds well to keep our prices down. And then finally, independence. And that's why we don't take federal funding, because we are independent. And why are we so independent? That's because we don't want the federal government, we don't ever want to risk putting our Christian mission in jeopardy with some sort of legal ruling. So if you take federal money, there can be strings attached. And Grove City College and both Hillsdale College are really known for this. Grove City and Hillsdale both had court cases going through the federal court system in the late 1970s and 80s, early 80s, when I was a student. And they tossed the Hillsdale case out and went after Grove City. Although the 2 cases were very similar, Grove City's went all the way to the Supreme Court, and a lot of people thought we won that, and we felt we lost it, and so we said, we're not taking any federal money. We don't want to put anything at risk, and so we're flying solo without any help, and one of the few colleges in the country to do that. So anyways, faithfulness, excellence in academics and all that we seek to do, even in athletics, faithfulness, excellence, community. That community part is so important here. There's a lot of studies done on student success in higher education. And one of the very, very critical things is something called the peer effect. And it can be one of the most powerful influencers of helping to form and solidify a student's values while they're in college, and helping to determine their success. So Grove City is a place where professors like Dr. Andrew Mitchell raise the bar high. As I said, Christian scholarship is a rigorous pursuit of the truth, and that requires a high bar. But students get over it and do pretty well here because of they just are such a positive influence on one another. So that community value is really important here. We want students, and I sign all the acceptances here. We want students here who are very clear about what our values are, very clear about what Christ-centered education means, and that they support it, and they're going to support one another. And as I say, we want students who want to pursue truth freely and humbly with one another and in the classroom, and seek truth humbly and freely in the classroom, and then to do it well together. So I would say that those 5 core values are there. Is there science? A broad offering of sciences. About little under 50% of our degrees are in the sciences. We have ABET accredited engineering, mechanical, electrical, computer, all kinds of pre-med programs. Exercise science is very popular here. Nursing. So there's a broad offering of sciences, and they're pretty challenging. Pretty challenging. What percentage of faculty are professing Christians? I think it's 100%. I don't know any here who are not. Are any non-Christians on faculty? Any non-Christians on faculty or staff? I personally don't know any non-Christians on our faculty. We're pretty serious about the hiring process at Grove City. Yeah.
As far as sorry, the follow-up, it looks like it's a follow-up with about regular science. We have biology, we have chemistry, we have physics.
Physics, yeah.
Mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, we have computer science.
Let's see. Yeah, let's see. I got the list of majors right here. But a lot of science. If you want it, we probably have it.
And as far as career options go, I think a lot of it is going to be dependent upon the student and their own interests that they have right now. And they're also, who knows whether those interests will stay the same as you go through college. So if I could stress as far as Grove City, and not just Grove City, but especially Grove City, with emphasizing, how should I say this? The skills that are honed in the classroom, the skills that are then practiced in the culture, I think make Grove City students some of the most hireable college graduates in the country, right? So depending on your job, I've got brothers that are in healthcare, I've got brothers that are in computer science, in tech, in law, in teaching, in the military. All of them speak to the fact that in coming out of college, they almost had to relearn the specifics of whatever job they were doing, right? That some of the background base knowledge was still there, but as far as what I need to hit the ground running in my job, those jobs, if you're an attractive candidate, will give you the training necessary. Right? What they're looking for are young men and women of character. What they're looking for are young men and women who are dependable. What they're looking for are young men and women who know how to read, who know how to write, who know how to think critically, and who know how to present their conclusions in a persuasive and winsome manner. They're looking for people who can be a good colleague, who can get along with people, who's not going to be backstabbing others on the way to the top. And so I think one of the reasons why we have this phenomenally high, 96, 97% job placement rating is not because we've found the right thing for every single person over the course of the 4 years, but we've made them generally hireable. We've made them generally marketable. And I would just say in a human sense, we've made them attractive. Well, we made them, right? They have grown, right? We've had perhaps, hopefully faculty have had some influence. So Grove City has helped them grow to be a remarkably attractive young man and woman, right? So I think I don't know if I could speak more specifically to those kinds of concerns right now, but I would just say as far as career paths go, for many majors, it's almost, what career do you want? We can help you with it.
Yeah, and I'm glad that on the career issue, Grove City really does stand out that way. We have our career services office starts with the very countercultural ideas that you're made in the image of God. And there's a number of people that work in that office. There are more career counselors per capita at our school than most any other college. But we start with this countercultural idea that you're made in the image of God and that He does have a calling for your life. And the summer the summer before your freshman year, they'll actually send you a battery of testing that's online. All four of my children found it extremely helpful. And the idea is to start out that God has created you with certain talents, interests, and abilities, and He's made you special and in that way, and to be introspective and to help understand those things. And you go through a 4-year process at Grove City to learn about career calling and actually then the pursuit of career and what it takes to prepare for that. And consequently, our students are more narrow than they are broad in their job pursuit because they know who they are. And it's a wonderful thing to sit in front of an employer and say, you know, these are my interests. I've tested them out on 2 or 3 internships while I was in college, and I know I'm very interested in these things. My transcript shows that I'm good at them. I've tried them out in the job world, and I've looked at your company, and I think I'm a really good fit for what you need. Now, that's not arrogance. It's just truth, and it's very helpful for somebody who's recruiting students, an employer recruiter, to sit in front of a student who knows who she or he is and how they've been trained and how they're wired and how that company fits their calling. And so it works quite well. My son is considering career in piloting aerospace engineering, a strong CCE background, 9th grade now, classical school since kindergarten, like my kids. Shown both the liberal arts and STEM. Yes, we do. We do have sophomores come to visit the college. Love to have your son come. By the way, and my brother, by the way, is an international pilot for American Airlines. Huge demand right now, as you know, for pilots. I'd be a little bit careful about getting real narrow in studying aerospace engineering, because if a student decides, that's not for me, aerospace, they can, you might be better off, just a word of warning, you might be better off starting out with a mechie degree, and a lot of airline companies will take mechies and train them to be aerospace. A lot of crossover there. Cost to attend 2 years this college for 2 years. So Grove City sticker price, and thank you for that question. Grove City sticker price is very different than most colleges out there. Right now, we're about 30 for this upcoming year. Will be 34,000 all in for room, board, tuition, room and board, food, and so forth. So Grove City is very different than most schools. We just charge our break-even price. And if you want to understand what's going on in pricing, college pricing, mom and dad, students who are paying your own way, write down this web address, gcc.edu/truthful pricing, gcc.edu/truthful pricing. And you'll get a handle on why are there some of these exorbitant costs and why are some of these exorbitant scholarships. And this is all very confusing, and Grove City pulls the veil back on college pricing. But we're 34,000 all in. So if you did 2 years of that, it would be 68. But we do offer need-based financial aid. About 80% of our financial aid is for need-based financial aid. I see lots of awards up to 14,000 for need-based aid. So that would bring 34 down to 20 if you got maximum need-based aid. And then we offer merit aid on top of that. So it really depends on who you are. So when at Grove City, when we give a scholarship, and you would think that every school in the nation does it this way, but actually very few do, we actually take money from our account and put it in your account. That's not how most of it works. There's an excessively high kind of fake price, and then they lower it for some and lower for others, and it's all over the board depending on what the college wants in a student. And sadly, in that shell game, students unwittingly end up funding the scholarship program for most private colleges in the country, and they don't even know they're doing it. They think they got a scholarship often, and they really didn't. They just overpaid, and the college gave them a coupon, call it a scholarship, and they take their less than average coupon money and give it to another student. And sadly, a lot of students end up borrowing to pay for their roommate scholarships, and they don't even know it. So anyway, gcc.edu/truthful pricing. And I would want to say on this,
Say that one more time. I didn't hear.
I do want to say on this, a lot of you, most of you, if you want to, you can do really, really well in getting outside scholarships. Here's another thing to Google. Google Grove City College outside scholarships. Millions and millions of dollars out there in outside scholarships. Wealthy people who want to help people go to college. And you don't apply to colleges for these scholarships. We've got a page called outside scholarships. So Google Grove City College outside scholarships, and we'll tell you how to do this. And the window for these things opens typically in October, and it closes maybe in March, April, so that then the scholarship organizations can award those scholarships. But you guys are good students. And Grove City College students, about a third of our students will bring in averaging $4,500 to $5,000 a year for their freshman year. And we found, because they got good at it for their freshman year, they actually bring in more their sophomore, junior, and senior year. So don't think that the only money available to you is what the college offers you. Millions and millions and millions of dollars out there in these scholarship funds, a lot of them in a community foundation. You can Google community foundation near me, and you're going to see these community foundations. There's one near us. There's over 200 college scholarships in the community foundation in our county. And a lot of people don't even know about them. And these scholarships go unclaimed year after year. So lots of money out there. You guys are great students. I know your parents are very interested in your lives and have helped you do great things. You're good writers, and you're going to win these things at a higher rate than average. So get at it. Grove City College outside scholarships. My dad is asking about physical security. How do you make the campus as safe as possible for young ladies? Man, that is the question. That's the number one question that parents have everywhere in the country. This is a very, very safe college. As Dr. Mitchell said, we're in a small town. We're an hour north of Pittsburgh. All of our how do we keep it safe for young ladies? Well, here's an example, and for young men too. This is a key card, and you can only get into your dorm if you scan one of these cards. We've got campus safety officers that patrol the campus. And the other way we keep it safe is we've got a lot of great people with great ethics here. And so you're not going to be at risk by your peers here. And so this is generally a very safe community. The little town of Grove City is a church-going community. There's a church on every corner, seems like. So it's a wonderful, safe community. Students with great ethics, faculty the same, staff the same, the people that mow the lawns here, great folks. So I hope I answered your question, Dad. It's an important one.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
safe.
it's not specifically physical safety, but I do think it speaks to the college culture. It is not uncommon for students to take the ID in their wallet, scan it at the cafeteria, go to a table, drop the wallet and on the table, go out and get their meal, and then come back.
Yeah.
All is still there. Everything in the wallet is still in the wallet.
Yeah.
We've had faculty from other Christian colleges come and be flabbergasted at this particular approach, saying it would never work in their school.
Yeah. When I go to the cafeteria and I want to claim a seat, I'll throw my wallet down. There's my Visa card.
Yeah.
sitting right there on the table.
I hate to bring that up in an unknown audience. Yes, I mean, but I mean, seriously, a kid left his shoes. He had a really nice pair of shoes, left them by accident in a cubby in the cafeteria. They were still there in the spring semester 6 months later when he finally remembered that's where he left them. And he came in and took them and everything was fine. So I think there's a lot of people that are willing to play by the rules. That sounds so legalistic. There's a lot of people who have goodwill towards each other here, and just it doesn't seem to consider. I think it doesn't seem to kind of rise up there that way.
Yeah, it's not a perfect place. We'll have a small amount of theft, but I don't know of students being in danger here. The campus is lit well at night too. Like there's a little wooded area just to the west of the chapel along beautiful bucolic Wolf Creek. It's really well lit. There's nobody gonna be able to hide in the woods there and hurt you because it's well lit. The bridge over Wolf Creek, well lit. It's from electronic to security to lighting. There's even like safety buzzers all around campus. So if you're walking around at night and you're concerned, you can boom, go to one of those poles and hit a buzzer and it's going to light up, campus safety, and they're going to get to you. I'm looking to join the military. What kind of aid or assistance do you offer for those looking to join or have already joined the military? When I was in college, I was in Air Force ROTC. I dropped out because I was colorblind. And I first found out for sure that I was colorblind. I should have known my senior year when I was wanted to go to the prom, and I ended up getting fitted for a pink tux. And the woman who was checking me out said, "You sure you want this tux?" And I'm like, "Yeah, what's the problem? It's a traditional gray tux." And she goes, "No, you're renting a pink tux, and you don't look like the kind of guy that would rent a pink tux." So, but anyway, and I found out for sure, it was confirmed by the United States Air Force and ROTC my freshman year, and I really wanted to pilot. I wanted to be a pilot and fly, and then I couldn't do it, and then I had terrible claustrophobia, and my only other path really was being one of those a missileer down 200 feet in a small room to launch missiles, and I couldn't handle the idea, so I ended up dropping out of ROTC. But a few years later, sadly, as a casualty of our court case, we had to drop our ROTC program here because students could get ROTC benefits while they were in college, but that was considered federal aid to the institution, not the student. This was part of the court ruling that affected both Grove City and Hillsdale. So neither one of us can have ROTC because which is really aid to the student, they said, nope, that's aid to the institution. And therefore 7,000 pages of the Code of Federal Regulations will be dropped on you, and you're going to have to abide by all of these things. So we dropped out of that. Unfortunately, that was a casualty. What I have seen, however, for students going into the military, and this is an interesting path, is you can do the state-based National Guard programs at Grove City, because state funding to the student does not jeopardize the college. So I've seen, I played soccer here at college. I saw a couple of soccer players join the Pennsylvania National Guard, and they got remuneration from the Guard while they were in college. It helped offset their costs of college.
One other point, it's not necessarily for the financial aid, but we are starting a collaborative venture with the United States Military Academy starting this spring. So I'll be taking a bunch of students over to West Point. We're going to be having the students stay in the barracks alongside the cadets, and then we're going to have a joint class that's going to be taught by myself and a fellow West Point instructor, as getting credit for this experience. And we hope that this particular collaborative venture is going to kind of get some wings on it, and so we might be able to do a little bit more come summer, or maybe a Christmas break kind of collaborative course together with the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. So it's an opportunity, at least.
Yes. Let's see. Hello, Elizabeth Crowley again from Texas. Do you guys have something like mock trial even for non law majors. Well, we have debate, but we don't do mock trial. That we do parliamentary debate, Elizabeth. But yes, and we have lots of non-law majors in the debate club. It's quite a group. Quite a group. We had 2 freshmen win a national championship last year. Oh, there you go. Andrew's got the Federalist Society group. Wonderful. Yeah. Okay. Other opportunities for student work programs to help with tuition? Tons. Yes, lots and lots of that, and lots of employers in the area. You can walk to work here. There's an outlet mall nearby. And I'm telling you what, a lot of students, what I'm seeing, because they get involved with career services, they end up pursuing internships after their freshman and sophomore year, and they're getting paid pretty well for summer internships. Even some students, like my son, was working during college and making significant money. So if you get to career services and you start thinking about calling and career, I mean, you don't end up having to do lawn mowing jobs in the summertime like I did. But I mean, you could go off and do some really serious stuff and get paid well. Let's see, do you have data on what alumni do after they graduate from your college? I think I addressed that a little bit earlier, but yes, we got lots of data. I don't want to, sound bragging, but they do really well. And our students do really, really well coming out of business in STEM. So I'll just say that. Regarding safety, geography has a lot to do with things. I think we covered this.
That's just my response.
Oh, that was you. That was you. Yeah. That's Dr. Mitchell jumping in there. I'm a little slow down. You're good on the chat. I'm doing the verbal. You're way ahead of me. What would it look to come to Grove City with an associate's degree? Yeah. So what you would want to do is work with our registrar's office and see how many of your credits will transfer. And there's a good chance that a lot of your credits will transfer, and that you'll reduce the overall cost of your degree. So you want to work with our registrar's office to get an answer specifically about those credits. Okay, Elizabeth, your dad. I know your dad. Tell him I said hi. My dad again. What kind of approach do you apply to introducing students to really contentious topics from the big scary world? That's really good. We don't run from big scary topics at Grove City. We run headlong into them. Balancing conservative values and biblical education, preparing students to engage with secular and anti-Christian perspectives. And thank you for answering my other questions, Dr. Mitchell. Dr. Mitchell, since you're in the classroom doing this, have at it.
Oh, I already texted.
Oh, you did? Oh, you're way ahead of me. Way ahead of me. All right. So, look, if I get to these, and you've already done it, so I've done. All right. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, I was trying to summarize. I see it in 2 different ways, right? So the big issues come at us, I think, impersonally through media, right? Through the news we consume, through the influencers. And I think because of the impersonal way in which it's presented to us, faculty have a little bit easier job responding in an impersonal way. All right, okay, well, let's dissect this a little bit. Let's see where it's coming from. Let's see, are there earlier expressions of these ideas? What are the consequences of these ideas? What does the Bible and Christian tradition have to say just about the idea itself, rather than the specific expression of it? Once we understand where a biblical perspective on this big issue is, can we craft a persuasive response? So you can meet a kind of impersonal challenge with a kind of impersonal challenge. I think where it gets trickier for students is when it becomes more personal. Like, oh, it's a friend that I know, right? Or it's a cousin who came up to me over Thanksgiving and it just kind of threw this in my face. And if I respond in an impersonal way, I run the risk of destroying that relationship, and I want to care about that relationship. So I would say as a faculty member, that's where I think I'm less effective at helping a student, but we do have, again, a robust counseling center that can help there. Again, the students, the church attendance is phenomenal, and we are blessed with 5 or 6 really good churches in town with phenomenal pastors who are good at what they do, who are willing to help talk to students and counsel students when faced with a more personal kind of challenge, right? When it's a family member, when it's a deep friend, and you don't want to lose that relationship. So I would say there's two different types of responses depending on the kind of challenge that you're facing.
And maybe this will be the next one will be the last question. I think we got a hard stop at 5:30.
Okay.
But what was the college's response during the COVID lockdown events in the country? Did you mandate vaccinations for students? No, we did not. What was your policy during this time? That was a really tough time. We quickly understood that the risk of COVID was not to our students, but it was maybe to more elderly people in the community. And what we were trying desperately to stay open in March of 2020, but there was a lot of fear out there. Parents wanted to get their kids home, and we started seeing kids like leave. It started to trickle out, and more were leaving over fear, which is understood. And then we ended up shutting down on-campus classes. I think we were one of the last colleges in the country to actually shut down on-campus classes. And we quickly, because every student who comes here gets a laptop computer loaded with all the software they need for 4 years and so forth. We were able to pivot quickly to online, but we were open the next semester. We were open, and not only were we open next semester, we were open in the admissions office and we were one of the few admissions offices in the country that would allowing students to get on campus. And so, there was all this fear of COVID, and our counselors and we said, we're staying open, we're doing tours. There was this concern about people coming in from other states and infecting Pennsylvanians. We said, bring them here. And we brought them to campus, and we stayed open. But we were also subject to the mercurial rules of our governor. And so the governor was changing the rules. So it seemed sometimes daily. I mean, literally, we were repositioning and measuring how far apart seats could be in our admissions office. But we had this problem. We had to comply with the law. We thought it was kind of foolish. Does 6 feet matter different than 7 feet when things are flying around in the air and all this stuff? But that's how I felt. But I'm not a scientist, nor do I play one on TV. But anyway, so we had to comply with what our governor said and what local state law said. But we went right to the limit of what the government will let us do, and like I said, we were one of the few offices in the country that was open for admissions. We had people coming to Grove City after they visited Carnegie Mellon because they were being met at the gate at Carnegie Mellon and say, go away, you can't come here. And they happily came up to Grove City to see us. So I think we need to end there, Dr. Bianco. It's 5:29, and you guys have been great to talk with. A lot of great questions.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I'd be happy to entertain other ones if they specifically want to talk about history. If you want to shoot me an email, my email address is mitchellaj@gcc.edu. But I'd encourage all you guys to enjoy this particular time. I know it's kind of challenging. I remember it, although it was many, many years ago myself, just kind of exploring what different colleges have to offer. So I encourage you to take the time to keep asking these good questions, not just simply of Grove City, but of other places that you encounter. And it's been a delight to actually spend the last hour and a half with y'all.
Yeah. If you want to email me, my email address is wishing, like wishing well, wishing ls as in Lee Stewart, wishing ls@gcc.edu. I get a lot of emails, so if you could just put CiRCE in your subject line, I'll make sure that I get back to you. So if you put CiRCE in your subject line, I'll get right back to you. And I also want to commend you guys for doing what you're doing, and your parents. I know sometimes it probably feels like you're swimming upstream in a downstream world, but you're doing the right thing, and we're fans of what you're doing. So God bless you all.
Yeah.
God bless you too. Thank you guys.
Okay.
All right. Take care, guys. Good night.
Thanks, everyone.